So we're investigating the plausibility and the conclusions one might conclude without being there about this water above the planet, 11 miles up, so crystalline, super frozen, minus 180 degrees, and that it prevented any of the sunlight, ultraviolet radiation from coming in, and provided an atmosphere below on the planet, 30% greater oxygen. People live a lot longer, a lot bigger. The biblical record states that God made the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. Is that plausible? We have assumed for centuries that the greater light was the sun and the lesser light was the moon. The moon certainly bears an impact on and, to some degree, affects the earth. The moon does not always remain in visual form, however. So how do you get day and night all the time? Lesser light, greater light. The lesser light ruled the night, consequently was not only the moon, even though the moon certainly has a purpose in the orchestrated model. The lesser light ruling the night included transfer of energy from the day side of the earth along the lines of this rakia firmament, crystalline. So it carried the light, conducted it. The electromagnetic energy was carried along the elemental lines of near metallic hydrogen, which was fiber optic in nature. This would cause a daylight glow on the night side of the earth, while on the day side of the earth, the greater light would literally rule the day. Well, let's move on down to where we left off. That's the subject. What about day number 6? According to the Bible. Where are you? On day number 6. Let me just look. On day number 6. There you go. On day number 6, the final animal life was created. And in order to keep the vegetation in balance, such huge plant-eating creatures were required. After the flood, the decline in the size and abundance of plant life would not have supported the dinosaurs for very long. Even elephants today in Africa are threatened by the lack of needed vegetation to support reduced partial pressure in the atmosphere. Oh, that R there. Played an even greater role in the demise of the dinosaurs. Even elephants today in Africa are threatened by the lack of needed vegetation to support them. Reduced partial pressure in the atmosphere played an even greater role in the demise of the dinosaur. In the world before the flood, the light would be at its lowest peak hue at high noon because of the angle of the light passing through the firmament. But just as important, envision the firmament, this double bubble of crystalline water, super cold, frozen, and the effect it would have upon the atmospheric pressure. The atmosphere would be pressurized to a greater degree than we have now. Researchers like Henry Voss at the University of Illinois have been able to approximate the atomic weight of such a canopy. This crystalline canopy would put a cap on the atmosphere. Nothing goes in, nothing goes out. It's like a sphere within a sphere, or this is an outer sphere over the inner sphere of the Earth. Atmospheric pressure today at sea level is 14.7 pounds per square inch. Before the flood, the air pressure would have been about 2 times what it is today. The ratio of oxygen in the atmosphere would have been about 30% compared to 21% today. Such researchers have concluded that due to the pre-flood atmospheric conditions, which have greater amounts of oxygen, man could have run up to 200 miles without suffering fatigue. It has been discovered in the hyperbaric medical chamber, especially athletes, experiments that under these circumstances an open wound would heal overnight. It is therefore understandable how man could have lived to be several hundred years old or older, even after the fall in this pre-flood world. Heavy air pressure and more oxygen in the atmosphere were conducive to longer life. Another factor in the pre-flood environment which was in man's favor, was less radiation from the sun, especially ultraviolet. The canopy above the Earth acted as a filter to trap most of the shortwave radiation. It is the shortwave radiation that is causing man many problems today. Before the flood, almost all of the harmful radiation would have been filtered out by the water canopy. I say the water, really, crystalline, C-R-Y-S-T-A-L-L-I-N-E, C-R-Y-S-T-A-L-I-L-I-N-E, crystalline canopy, frozen crystalline, yeah, ice, frozen canopy, because if it was water, there'd be clouds up there, and it would block the sun, so that would stop life from forming. Today, because of harmful shortwave radiation, man suffers genetic damage, cancer, and other health damage factors that shorten the lifespan. Also, there are certain microbes and disease germs that could not live in the pre-flood atmosphere. So much for disease. In addition, there was a mist each morning that cited the oxygenation of the entire water table. I would say each morning that provided. I'm going to make that up because that fits better. So more oxygen in the water would account for great whales, great sharks, and the chambered nautilus marine life forms that were gargantuan in size. The fossil record bears evidence that such creatures existed, but without more oxygen in the waters today, they could not live in contemporary oceans, seas, or rivers. The theory, or a model, it's not a theory because it can't be proved scientifically, the model of evolution does not provide an answer as to how such enormous marine monsters live, but the creation model does provide an answer. An additional beneficial characteristic would be the extra oxygen in the atmosphere, and with the great assimilation of oxygen in the air, man was possibly 20% larger than he is today. Adam and Noah were probably about 7 feet tall or taller, and there were others who were even taller. In the 6th chapter of Genesis, we find that there were giants on the earth before the flood. At Glen Rose, Texas, we have excavated some of those footprints of those giants. Their footprints were preserved as they walked over muddy sediments in the early phases of the Noahic flood. The environmental context before the flood would exercise the full genetic viability for all life forms. Full genetic viability. What is that defined as? The full capacity of a species to produce characteristics within its own species, without changing such. For example, today the dragonfly, which is a superior helicopter, has a wingspan not exceeding 6 inches. Wow, that's a big one. But in the fossil record, dragonflies have been found with wingspans of up to 36 inches. Now that's a dangerous insect to be around today. But in the fossil record, dragonflies have been found with wingspans of up to 36 inches. Oh, I repeated that same sentence. There has to be an explanation as to how, at some point in time, dragonflies grew to such gargantuan dimensions, but years ago, not today. Everything is devolving, not evolving. It would certainly require a greater concentration of oxygen. Conditions that would support such monstrous life forms, even in the insect world, scientifically dictate that there had to be such a canopy above the Earth. In order to provide that much oxygen, it would have to approach the level of toxicity unless the atmospheric pressure was greater. So I'm going to fix this sentence. Again, such an atmospheric condition can only be explained in terms of a firmament. Therefore, we have to follow the biblical record of creation specifically where the environmental chain breaks into unconnected parts. So even if we had clouds above the air, too much cloudiness prevents the sunlight from getting through and it stops life from existing. The greater atmospheric pressure, with approximately 30% oxygen, would have created optimal conditions. Thus, dragonflies could have grown to a size supporting a 36-inch wingspan. Consider another illustration. In West Texas, there has been a fossilized pterodactyl, a flying reptile, with a wingspan of 52 feet. There is no way this flying dinosaur, as it has been called, could have flown with the current atmospheric pressure. It would have been utterly impossible. But with an atmospheric pressure of approximately 32 pounds per square inch, this flying pterodactyl would have had a field day. A firmament of compressed hydrogen held in place by a layer of crystalline water which would keep the temperature of it at a consistent level. NASA had discovered in the examination of superconductive materials that when held near a magnet, the lines of force generated in the free flow of electromagnetic energy hold the materials in place. At that super cold temperature, hydrogen would be magnetic, either above it or below it. So in other words, researchers have not been able to find a mechanism for holding up a water canopy unless that water canopy has exactly what the Bible record clearly describes: a superconductive solid metallic magnetic base. Hydrogen would be such a base under these circumstances that with a free flow of electrons, it would support itself above the dipole magnet of the Earth. All the laws of physics known in current research show that this would simply support itself above the Earth, and it would be held there until warmer temperatures would moderate its enclosure. Warmer is less metallic, fall to the Earth, worldwide flood. Now we continue. A superconductive canopy of compressed hydrogen in near metallic form was encased above and below in crystalline water. The stars were shining at a distance, a startling characteristic of the pre-flood world, and the light from the stars would be filtering through. It wouldn't be blocked. In Genesis 1:14-18, the stellar heavens are described. The stars are in color, and the biblical record states that God set the stars in the firmament. It would appear so from underneath the earth, yet they would be many, many light years away. The ancients described the firmament as a vault above the earth, and it would appear as such, and the stars were placed in this vault. They would appear as such even though they're further away. We see the stars today clearly in open skies, but if this glass canopy were there, super crystalline ice canopy were there, it would kind of filter through, and so it would be seen through in a gorgeous, colorful display. This is not what the biblical record says to us. The biblical record states very clearly that God set the stars in the firmament, much as a jeweler would enhance a diamond by placing it on a background of black velvet. So the word set is taken from the Hebrew word dathan. It means to add and yield. In other words, the stars are not physically placed in a firmament because they are great distances away. But as light from the stars penetrates the firmament, there is a very strong magnetic field in the middle. It is superconductive without any resistance to the flow of electrons. On each side is an electromagnetic field charged to a lesser degree in the crystalline water formation. What is then presented is in a pressurized form. On each side is a photomultiplier. Each photon of light which strikes the configuration is multiplied by 10 because of the interaction with the atoms. And on the earth side of the canopy, the stars were seen with 10 times the photons that the light brought to the outer surface of the canopy. Before the flood, the stars were seen by man as being about 3 times brighter than they are seen today, in other words, in the firmament.